Hi, with us today, Fadi Bizri, founder of SE Factory, partner at B&Y Ventures. Fadi, you're a familiar face to anybody in the entrepreneurship ecosystem in Lebanon. A lot of people know you from your many hats. Today we're gonna, with at least these two hats, which is SE Factory and B&Y. Today we're going to try to focus a little bit more on SE Factory. Maybe we'll have you another day as a guest for B&Y. What's SE Factory?
Okay. First of all, thank you very much for the kind invitation.
Welcome.
I've been in the startup scene in Lebanon since I came back to Lebanon, so in 2009. And I started getting involved in the startup scene. Actually, my work in the entrepreneurship scene is what got me the insights and the ideas for what became SE Factory. So throughout my work in the entrepreneurship scene, working on several accelerators and an entrepreneurship NGO and now in a fund, all of it mostly in tech startups, I saw firsthand how much there was a shortage of qualified software developers. It became the office joke that 3 times a week somebody calls me asking if I knew anybody who is a web developer or mobile developer. Please, Lebanese dakhilak, I need to hire, I'm growing, I can't find them, etc. So this was always a bit surprising to me because I studied computer engineering. So I know that there's thousands like me who've studied that. So I thought, okay, if there's supply and if there is demand, why isn't it working, right? Instinctively, the insight, the idea we had was that there's a lot of people who graduate from those degrees, computer science or engineering, so they can code, but they're not ready for the job market. So my partner at SE Factory, now we met Zena Saab, who runs the Nawai network, and which is also a skills development NGO. We decided to go and investigate. So we went to universities. We went to the Lebanese University, LIU, we went to AUB and others, and we asked the students and the professors what's going on. We actually realized that there's a subtle difference depending on the type of university. Typically, if you're AUB, LAU, EHG, those universities, you graduate, a large number of people leave the country. So there's a massive brain drain, which is what we know. So the remaining pool of tech talent is relatively low. But there's many other universities that cater to all socioeconomic backgrounds. And those universities, their students graduate, they typically are unable to find jobs in their discipline, in the tech discipline. And when you ask them what's going on, and we asked the job market, we realized that they lacked practical skills because what they learned at the university was a bit too theoretical, and they didn't have a chance to practice their web development skills, their software skills. And that's a big problem for recruiters and companies. Also, they say they lacked soft skills, and they basically didn't know which companies to apply to. It sounds weird, but so many of those students from those universities, LIU, MUBS, AUT, even the Lebanese University and other universities, they graduate, they have coding knowledge, but they're not able to get employed. So this is when we realize they graduate at a certain level, and companies want them to be at a slightly different level, and we can build that bridge. And that bridge is SE Factory, which means Software Engineering Factory, where we train them on how to become professional software engineers.
So you only at SE Factory, so you're going to train people. You only accept people with university degrees, from what I understand.
Yeah, we to be specific, we accept people. We as a requirement, you have to know the theory of computer science.
Okay.
So practically, it's people who have studied some computer science in a university. We've had people who haven't, who studied on their own, for example. But we do a test when they apply to see if they have the basics, because our program is 3 months. And in 3 months, we can't teach the theory and practical professional skills. You can only teach one of the two.
We're going to get back to the aspect of the role of universities and what role are they playing. But take us a little bit into the details of the program. So, okay, I want to apply. I graduated or from university. I'm interested in coding. What do I do?
Okay, so you're interested in building a career as a software developer. You apply online. You fill out a form, and which allows us to assess if you have basic English, which is a requirement. You need to have some basic English, nothing fancy. And we ask what you learned, what kind of coding languages you learned, and so on. And then if you pass that, the second phase is we interview. We do a very short 15-minute interview with every single applicant who passes the first filter. We just double check that they have the basic English, and we ask them some coding questions. We give them a small coding puzzle. Again, nothing very hard, just to make sure they have the basics. And if they do that, and so these are our 2 criteria, plus 2 more, which is a full-time commitment for 3 months. So this is an intensive program. This is 14 weeks, 5 days a week, 10 hours a day. So they need to be able to commit for those 3 months to our program. And they need to have, show drive and motivation. Like they want to build a better life for themselves. A lot of these youth come from, slightly more difficult socioeconomic circumstances. They were working while they were studying. They paid for their own tuition fees. Some of them were in debt, which is kind of what contributed.
How much is the program going to cost them?
Yeah, if they are accepted, they only pay $100.
Okay.
So it's a social enterprise. We built a social enterprise at SE Factory. Whereby if you're accepted, you only pay a symbolic fee.
How many students per you do 2 batches per year?
3 per year.
3 batches per year. How many students per batch?
So now we're at 20 students per batch. On average, we're at 17. We've been doing it for the past 2.5 years. We launched in March 2016. And we're based at the BDD now, at the Beirut Digital District. And we've graduated 80 students. And we have about a 90% hiring rate. Our KPI, our impact criteria, because it's a social enterprise, we look at what is the impact, not just if there's any revenue we can generate. And we have a revenue model, which I can discuss. So we have an 80 to 90% hiring rate. And this is very important for us because this shows we're doing the right job.
We're going to get back to the hiring, to the end of the process. I come in, I'm accepted. What do I learn at SE Factory?
Yeah.
Is it full stack? Is it what type of languages are you can I get?
Yeah, good question. So the tech curriculum is basically full stack web development.
Okay.
So we teach them everything from how to the concepts of HTTP and internet security to how to set up your Linux server. We use open source languages. So Apache on the server side, for those who know, PHP on the scripting language, and then JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, plus frameworks around that. In addition, all the tools that a professional developer uses. So things like GitHub and Bitbucket, how to do testing, how to scale up your code, because if you're working on a production environment, not a amateur coding, you need to have a very solid website that can handle a lot of users and be secure and so on and so on. So we teach all of those concepts in addition to critical thinking. So we really emphasize teaching them how to learn. So we don't spoon feed them. We give them the concepts, and then they have assignments every single day, and they're coding continuously to develop their own skills and their ability to learn very quickly.
Soft skills, what do they get?
Yes, so we have a soft skill curriculum and an instructor for that. We teach them things like how to interview for a job, so email etiquette, CV, how to clean up their CV, how to apply, how to interview for the job, how to interact in a work environment, how to manage conflicts, how to work with your boss, how to communicate those issues, how to become self-aware and manage yourself, and also manage your work and work-life balance.
Just to continue on the path of being in SE Factory, and then we'll speak everything around that. Okay, the 3 months finish. How do you guys help me find a job?
So the third element is basically we bring the job market to you. So at the end of the 3 months,
It's a luxury.
Huh?
It's a luxury.
Yeah, but it's hard work. Huh? We really get them to work very hard. We tell them it's the hardest thing you'll ever do, because if you are able to survive SE Factory, you've built such an incredible work discipline, and the job market will really love that. So the attitude and the discipline are as important as the content that we teach, and we are very much about that. So at the end of the 3 months, every student works on a final project. It's not a startup. It has nothing to do with entrepreneurship. It's all about building them. They pick a project that they like, or we have companies now that submit projects, and the student can choose to work on it. They work on it for a few weeks, and on graduation day, we bring the job market. We have 35 registered companies with us between Lebanon and Dubai. And every student goes on stage, and then he or she practices and pitches their final project, and they show their code and all of that. This allows them to practice pitching, so we give them pitch training as well as part of the soft skills. And when all the pitches are done, we do what I call a reverse job fair. So every student has a table in the big room at the Beirut Digital District, and the companies go and they talk to them, and the interview process starts on the spot. So right after the pitching, every student has their laptop open, the recruiter comes in, he's like, show me your code, and the interviewing starts on the spot. And it's like 2 hours, every recruiter going with every one of our students, and on that moment, all of the interviews get lined up, and our students, end the day with like 3-4 interviews lined up.
Who's recruiting them?
Okay.
And let me just precise my question a little bit. One of the reasons I'm asking this is that everybody in Lebanon is complaining, and I go back to the start of this interview. You start by saying there's a lack of coding and coders, and we'll discuss it a bit more. But all the startups I meet, all the SMEs I meet, always complain that they lack developers. It's like one of the big hurdles. It's money and coders. One of the big complaints also is that you have a couple of banks in Lebanon, a couple of big companies that are snatching basically every developer out there. First of all, who's recruiting from SE Factory? Are there like 1 or 2 banks coming and snatching everybody? Is this true what everybody's saying out there? Or no, it's more diversified than you think, and what's the take on the demand in the market?
Yeah, there's clearly a lot of demand. We are very specific in what we can provide. And I also work in a fund, so I see everyday startups in tech. We can't provide senior talent. By definition, senior developer is somebody who has a few years of work experience, which we don't. We provide highly skilled junior web developers, full stack, way better than a fresh graduate, but not yet a senior developer. So we're very clear to our recruitment partners. We call them RPs, recruitment partners, who come to us. That being said, it's not at all the case in terms of the RPs who come to us that they're all big companies. It's very, very spread out. We have startups across the board, small, very new, and medium-sized startups and larger. We have Kalima, we have Lexium that is hiring from us. These are all relatively small startups. We have larger startups, such as Anghami, that are hiring from us. We have a startup in Dubai. So actually the majority are SMEs and or startups. And the majority recruit 2, 3, 4 students. So it's not a case of one company snatches the entire batch. It's not the case.
What's the average pay?
Yes. So on average, we look at our data. We have 80 students so far. On average, our students are able to command $1,400 a month as a starting salary, $1,400.
That's not bad for a junior.
Yeah, that's good. In any batch, our students get anywhere between offers between $1,000 and up to $2,000. The top one in every batch, companies basically bid really hard to get them, and it can go up to $2,000. So on average, $1,400, $1,300 is what we get.
How many candidates?
So far, 80. We've graduated 80.
No, but how many candidates to get? Are you getting enough pipeline of candidates?
At every batch, how many apply? Yeah, we have about 270 in the last batch.
Okay, so you do have the pipeline and an ongoing pipeline to choose from.
That being said, we do an extensive campaign. So, it's almost 3 months training, and then there's 1 month before the next batch. And we do extensive online campaign. We do info sessions in all of the universities. We bring them to our space, but we go to the universities. We have partners who push the word out. So there's quite a bit of work to be done there. It's actually, it's very hectic. There's a lot of work there to do it right. To do a coding bootcamp the right way with an 80-90% hiring rate, it's all about the details, and it's really difficult to do well.
Well, you're opening an interesting topic, which is a lot of people have come and go in the coding scene in Lebanon. A lot of programs were set up, closed. It's always been a bit weird what was happening around the coding training in Lebanon. Why this weirdness? Why is it so complicated for a program to sustain itself over the long term? Is it financing? Is it I've spoken to some founders of some programs. They tell you, well, there's a mismatch between what the market requires, which is usually senior coders, and what we can graduate, which are juniors. Some tell you, well, anyways, the good talents are leaving. We can't keep them in Lebanon. What's the problem?
Okay, so in terms of the coding bootcamps, a few of them have tried, and different formulations and all of that. I can only speak for us. I think what made us work well is basically we really identified our target audience on the youth side, We are targeting people who are typically come from slightly less favorable socioeconomic backgrounds, so they cannot pay coding bootcamp fees. So coding bootcamps is nothing new. We didn't invent the wheel. It's very popular everywhere in the world. But in Western Europe and North America, a bootcamp costs anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 to $14,000.
Wow.
It's something that there's no way anybody here can afford, right? Even if you reduce for cost of living, so you make it cheaper.
University degree.
Yeah, if we do our own math internally, it costs $3,000 to train one of our students. So even that, many students would not be able to afford, especially the target audience. So once we understood that, what we did was take the concept of the coding bootcamp, but we modified it to the local context. And I think this is important. You can't copy-paste from abroad. You take good ideas, you see what works, but then you analyze your local context and your local problem. If our target audience is these types of youth, we realized that we could do it in 3 months only if they have studied some computer science. So already we've gone one step. This is not a coding bootcamp for everybody to learn how to code for fun. I recommend everybody learn how to code, but that's not what we do. We take people who have studied some of it, but who are stuck, and we train them so that they can get jobs, so they want to get a job. So you see how specific that audience is. And because of the socioeconomic conditions of those youth, we knew we couldn't charge them on the get-go. So they only pay a symbolic fee of $100, because if it's free, it makes it kind of cheapens it, right? And we raised grants for that to talk about how we make it all work. We raise a lot of grants. We have individual donors, and we have corporations and grants organizations and foundations. But to become sustainable, like a proper social enterprise, we started revenue models. So after 2 years, when we've proven ourselves that we're a quality program, now if you're a company and you hire from us, you pay after 3 months. So if you hire somebody after the probation period of 3 months, if you're happy with them, you pay 1.5 times the monthly salary. So this is the first revenue model. We're actually adding a new one where now we tell the students, listen, if you finish SE Factory and if you get a job in coding, of course, help us support the next student by paying 1 month of your salary, which you can spread out over up to 18 months. So they're like paying $50 a month. So it's totally payable if you have a job and if you have a decent salary, which our data shows they get. So you see? So it's those details that really made us sustain ourselves and work in the past 2.5 years. And I think a lot of people, when they start, maybe they don't think enough about that how different the local context is from a program that they've seen abroad, I think.
I tend to agree. I think we always try to copy models from outside, and you need to be local. You need to adapt, and this is what you've done. You've done quite well. And time proves it. You've been here for a while.
Thank you.
But looking at it from, on the long-term perspective, today there are maybe 2-3 programs still left in Lebanon, like SE Factory. Let me backtrack a little bit. What's the state of coding today in Lebanon, of developers of coding? And let me tell you why I'm asking the question. In some previous guests, I had here, Fuad Rahmi, to mention a few, Maroon Shamis, they all mentioned the problem that they thought universities were not playing their role into getting the right talents for the entrepreneurship ecosystem. And I'm looking at it from entrepreneurship ecosystem, but that's what SmarTalk is about a little bit. What's your take on this?
Okay, it's actually a very good question.
Thank you.
So, no, really, okay. It's because we think about these things a lot. People tell us that, if you guys are doing so well, doesn't it mean that the universities aren't doing their job? That being said, when I spoke to the universities, they have a common argument, which I think makes a lot of sense. It's that, listen, a university, their job is to give you the solid foundation that will help you for life. You can think of SE Factory as kind of a specialization into software engineering. But you can study computer science or even computer engineering like I did and never work in the field, but you use your analytical skills to go into management consulting. How many friends do we know have studied a technical field but have gone into consulting or even finance? So I do see their point of view. I do see that they have a full curriculum already where they need to inject a lot of solid theory. And computer science takes 3 years, right? It's not which is why we can't do it in 3 months.
You went to UB, right?
Yeah.
You did computer engineering?
Yeah.
Did you learn any coding?
Yes. They teach you coding, but it's just what you teach compared to what makes a professional software engineer is not enough. And if you come from a lower or a more difficult socioeconomic background, you have way more of a handicap, and the job market does not look at you. It's as simple as that.
That is true.
It's going to sound a bit classist in the sense, but honestly, this is the case.
But I'm going to go back to my main question, but just to open a parenthesis. Today, coders get paid good money everywhere in the world.
Yes.
It's a job we know it's going to continue recruiting for many, many years. To be a good coder, do I still need to go to university? I mean, it's a big question. We've seen models in France, for example, where, like École 42 in France, where they're basically telling you, don't go to university. No worries. Come to our program, which is a bit like yours, but probably more extensive, and say, okay, you're just going to work, and we're going to teach you while working. You don't need to go to university. You don't need a diploma. Who looks at it anymore?
Yeah, it's a very interesting point about the future of education and what role university still needs to play in a very fast-moving job environment. To finish my previous point, I do think universities in tech majors should give them more practical stuff. That being said, I still believe in the role of universities. I see SE Factory as complementing universities, not as replacing universities. So if you want to continue to become a professional software engineer, SE Factory is like a 3-month specialization, if you want, to make you really ready, well prepared for the job market, if this is the type of job you want. But maybe you want something else. So I do think universities should evolve a bit. But I'm not a radical in the sense that the universities are useless and you should drop out of university. I honestly don't believe that, and I worry about over-specialization too quickly. So I do believe that I went to French school. So I do believe in a broad education helps you for the long run in your life. But there needs to be a better balance between looking at what is out there in the local market and the regional market. So I think universities should not be silos. And the educators in universities should not be silos and say, okay, this is my curriculum, I really don't care about the rest of the world or what's out there. حيدبروا حالهم تلاميذ, as we say in Lebanese. No. Look at what's out there and help them adapt in some ways. Or partner up with programs like SE Factory. So I see this as better collaboration if you want, some tweaking, but not, the concept of universities are useless. I don't buy that, to be honest.
Do we have the right skills? And here I'm talking to the founder of SE Factory, but also a partner at a VC, so who has a global vision of what's happening, of technologies, of innovation, what's happening. Do we have in Lebanon, but even more broadly in the Arab world, do we have what it takes to drive our country's ambition, our region's ambition, into growing the entrepreneurship ecosystem or the technology ecosystem? I mean, do we have the right coders? Do we have the right people for artificial intelligence? I mean, it starts with coding, but I mean, do we have all these ladder, all this skill ladder?
I think so Lebanon's education system ranks decently globally. So whether it's in schools or universities, we rank okay, actually, especially for STEM. So, and we look at the pool of talent that we have, there's a lot of variability, but we're able in 3 months to take them to a very good level. So which means they have a good foundation to start with. So I think it's decent for the jobs that we have that are in demand now. So web development, we're launching mobile development at some point, even machine learning. I spoke with some senior developers, senior machine learning people outside Lebanon, like in the US. And they're like, if you take good developers, you can teach machine learning where they can be professionals in that space. That being said, more advanced something like data science, which is different, which is much more theoretical, needs PhDs. And the level of PhDs here maybe isn't so great. So I think for more advanced stuff, we need to start investing from now in developing those, because those are going to be the jobs. I mean, SE Factory trains for the jobs of today and tomorrow. But what about the jobs of after tomorrow? This is where a government or, maybe, or at least, or universities or other, sectors like that invest in preparing for the jobs of after tomorrow. And that's something that needs to be addressed properly. But we have proven we're able to create jobs that are highly in demand now. The data proves it, not only in Lebanon. We have companies in Dubai. So Matic is a startup, a VC-backed startup in Dubai, doing very well, hired 6-7 from our graduates, and they kept them here. They put them in a co-working space. And they're very happy because the salaries are, and overall cost of HR is lower here than in Dubai. Similar time zone, it's win-win. Everybody's happy. So you can make Lebanon into a place where good quality, highly skilled tech talent, or knowledge economy talent, or digital talent, if you want, is sourced not only for local companies, but for regional companies. And that's one of the goals of SE Factory. We are reaching out to companies outside of Lebanon, in Dubai, and in London, in the UK, and in France, typically working with the Lebanese diaspora, but not necessarily, not only. And they start hiring and keeping them and working with talent in Lebanon. So if you want the vision, my vision, and the overall vision of SE Factory, I want you to visualize a team in Tripoli or a team in Saida working with the head office in Dubai, delivering to a company in Japan, whether it's machine learning or coding or creative or any type of digital work. It's ideal for Lebanon, and I think it's totally doable.
You're pitching for a vision of Lebanon being a sort of technical factory, SE Factory, a technical factory for the world.
Yeah.
Which, why not? It suits well, I guess, that we have a lot of diplomas, a lot of people with degrees, a highly educated skill force with lower salaries. But Lebanon lost that war many times on many other fields.
True.
What does it take for Lebanon to succeed besides SE Factory and building? Because what you're doing is great. I mean, it's not just me interviewing you, telling you this. It's widely recognized in the market that, okay, SE Factory is nice and what they do is a good job, and they do a public service job at the end of the day. But more globally, what is needed? What do you call for today? You as a founder of this operations, what would you dream for?
I'm Lebanese. Of course, I'm going to call for what we all know. Better government, better governance. Laws and the rule of law and proper policies. I mean, what we're doing is effectively what the government should be doing. A government should sponsor coding boot camps left, right, and center, give them for free in co-working spaces for everyone to get trained. We shouldn't exist, but we do because of a lack. So we all need a better governance and a better rule of law and a government that respects its people. All of the things that every Lebanese complains about all the time. It would definitely.
No, but very concretely. Today, if there's a law that is needed, if there's a structure that is needed, is there something that we really need to drive as a country?
Well, actually, there are also things that we don't need. Like we don't need our politicians to fight all the time. It has to be said. We don't need security problems. Like
we need stability.
Stability matters. Digital work is very good for Lebanon because you can work remotely. You can have clients outside of Lebanon, so you're slightly decoupled from the problems in Lebanon, right? Let's say there's an massive economic crisis, worse than the one we have now. But all of your customers outside Lebanon, you're doing okay. What you need is decent internet, which we're getting. We have fiber. It's not perfect. It depends where you are.
It's better than before.
Way better than before. We have fiber at the BDD. We have 50 megs download. You don't need more than that. So as long as we have those basics, that's why betting on digital work is very good. But a war would disrupt everything. And it is a potential thing. So stability matters. You can't build if you don't know if next year everything is going to go up in flames. I mean, it's problematic. We don't say it enough, but it's on the back of everyone's mind in Lebanon. So stability matters. Better laws, better governance. Continuing the work now that the government is doing, more or less decently, or not decently, but it's getting there gradually in terms of connectivity and internet, promoting digital skills. There's talk of developing in schools digital skills and coding. I think we should go ahead. Again, I think the knowledge economy and digital work is ideal for Lebanon. And I do think also reforming the educational sector for better control of quality matters. If you are AUB, LAU, SG, and all of this, or you went to Collège Protestant or IC or Louis Zegman, you don't know what I'm talking about. But there's a huge long tail of universities or so-called universities that are not good. Okay, they are basically big buildings that provide you some sort of curriculum, and the professors are very haphazard.
Business of diplomas.
Exactly, and it's a good business actually to be in. So better control of that, so that we have better quality at the input. Will allow us to do our job better. So the education sector needs to be in better control for quality control. It's something that I think is very important that is not addressed enough. Almost anybody can open any university. So there's a lot of them. Doesn't mean that they're all bad, the ones that we don't know about. Some of them are decent.
We went in a few years from, I think, 10 or 12 universities to more than 50 licensed.
Yeah, 50, 60 licensed.
Which is terrible.
So some of them, I call them acronym universities. They're just 3 letters and then but it's not really good quality. There's a lot that are decent. So to be fair, so it depends. But again, better control on this would help everybody, because also you are lying to the youth. You are giving them false hope. I see so many students, they do an undergraduate degree from some university, and then they don't apply to SE Factory because they say, I would like to do my master's. And I'm like, why? It's like, I'll get a better job. I tell them, no, you're not going to get a better job. That university is not preparing you for the job market.
Not anymore.
And the job market will not, quote unquote, respect that degree. It won't differentiate you. So if you want to be a good coder, go to SE Factory or go to other programs. But this is wrong. But there's a mentality in Lebanon. I need to collect diplomas from almost anywhere. This certificate or this diploma is going to get me the job. No, it depends what training, from what university, and if it's suited, if it's adapted to the job market. And there's a lot of work to be done there.
On these, you made the loop. I love that we're ending this interview on going back to the roots, which is education at school, because I definitely agree with you. This is where the risk is, because if we don't teach the kids at school the right skills, also the right soft skills, how to be polite, how to be respectful, how to work hard, we're going to lose everything that's being done right here.
Our biggest asset is the youth and the education. This is our best asset. It's not the oil or the gas or all of that nonsense. It's really the youth. If we lose that, we lose Lebanon. I mean,
no, I like your vision of Lebanon as a tech factory for a digital factory, as you called it, for the world. And I think it makes sense considering, but we need to fix what's wrong in the education sector. Fadi, it was a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. Same here.
It was very enlightening. Good luck with SE Factory. And hopefully next time we'll discuss more the entrepreneurship ecosystem in Lebanon.
With pleasure. With pleasure. Okay, thank you very much.